One of the problems with the voucher program and charter schools is that with charter schools, in many instances, and particularly under Betsy DeVos's influence in Detroit, there is no accountability in terms of them having to accept children who have learning challenges. Certainly in private schools, there's no accountability whatsoever, right? The private school can kick out whoever they want. But they still get, through a voucher, if it's a voucher system, they will get public money. If it's a charter school, they get public money. And what that does is two things. One is it obviously drains money from the public school system. Two is it theoretically inflates the success metrics of those other schools and reduces the cost in which they need to achieve those metrics. And then sends the kids back to the public schools without the money. Here is Maggie Hassan, I think, coming to realize that Betsy DeVos is not aware of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which basically says that in terms of getting federal money, you need to be held to certain standards as to who you accept and how you teach them. And Betsy DeVos seems to think that she doesn't know. She seems to think that it's just up to the states as to whether or not they should impose those requirements for that federal money, and that she doesn't know that there's a federal law about it.
I want to go back to the Individual with Disabilities and Education Act. That's a federal civil rights law. So do you stand by your statement a few minutes ago that it should be up to the states whether to follow it?
The law must be followed, federal law must be followed where federal dollars are in play.
So were you unaware when I just asked you about the IDEA that it was a federal law?
I may have confused it.
In other words, I don't just not know about the growth and the proficiency debate. I don't even know about the federal laws that involve education.
I think you'll find...
And I got news for you, folks. The federal law applies, period, to all public schools. They're not tied to federal dollars.
I think you'll find, Senator, there's a whole range of things across the entire spectrum that I am either completely ill-informed about, going to obfuscate, or genuinely have a terrifying agenda for.
I will choose clerical error as my answer, if that's okay.
I'm going with B, clerical error.
In fact, later in her conversation with Maggie Hassan, as Senator Hassan is talking about the multi-year record of Betsy DeVos sitting as the vice president on her mother's foundation, which has given money to focus on the family. And Franken will talk about that. Senator Franken will talk about that in a moment. But here is Betsy DeVos, explaining why everybody's under the misconstrued notion based upon multiple years of tax filings, why she might be involved with that.
Quick things, Ms. DeVos. I just wanted to clarify the issue about whether you were on the board of your mother's foundation. I have 990s up through 2013 where you're listed as the vice president and a board member. So was that just a mistake on your part?
That was a clerical error. I can assure you I have never made decisions on my mother's behalf on her foundation board.
So the listing that you were the vice president of the board is incorrect?
That is incorrect.
Okay, thank you.
What you gonna do about it now?
I got plans for poor kids to be forced to sell vitamins on the street. I think there's great entrepreneurial opportunities in that with them. And if they just think positive, they could overcome being some kid in a wheelchair or something, and they could make millions and live a luxurious lifestyle. Can we focus on the positive, Senator?
And if money ends up in the hands of for-profit companies to the detriment of our children, clerical error.
Clerical errors. Oopsies.
I mean, really, to be fair to her, I don't think her agenda is to put money in the hands. I don't think her primary agenda is to put money in the hands of for-profit corporations as much as it is to fund religious schools. I think that's her number one agenda. I think number two is the for-profit corporations.
I'm slightly more on the pale Qaeda end versus the crony capitalist end, Senator. So maybe you should focus your questioning in a different direction. If you want to go from left field with basic competence, you might find some fertile ground there too, because I have no idea what the F I'm talking about.
Well,
by the end of this testimony, you might believe it was a clerical error.
Hey, it's Sam Seder. Why don't you subscribe to this channel? You can do so right over here. Subscribe.